I went ahead and invested in the professional version of Zoom
Okay.
because it's paying off. I'm teaching all my classes on Zoom now,
Oh,
one day a
okay.
week. So I got 40 students. I just sit here and let them come into the room. And
Uh-huh.
now we are recording this, so it's an MPEG-4 file, so I'll be able to enhance it in my editing software, and I'll make sure you get a finished, polished version of it as much as we can. And in my opinion, the whole purpose of this, June never gave me a lot of details, but I could kind of read what it was about. My mission here is to support you and the preliminary hype of your getting the green light to do this. So I'm with you, man, and
I
I
appreciate that.
expect you to hire me as a co-producer in Japan.
In Japan, that's what we're talking about.
Me and Mike.
Look at this. There's Mike.
we
Mike
go.
says, "I want to be Yasuke."
Yeah, right. I said, man, you'll be the third extra for Yasuke. So I'm all yours, man. You just do not hesitate to engage my services, man. You know
All
what I
right.
do. So
I am hopeful that
I'm
we can make it happen. This coronavirus has
I'm
made everything challenging.
I'm supposed to be inducted into the Omaha Press Club Hall of Fame in June. It was postponed last year, and it doesn't look good for this year. So they may just have to send me my trophy.
Right.
Yeah,
Just
I ain't gonna.
disinfect it, put it in a
Yeah,
box,
right.
and ship it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, exactly, man. So there won't be any. I'll just give my initial comments. 3 o'clock will roll, so it's going to be one package for about the first 40 minutes. So afterward, maybe you and I have a little Q&A, and somebody else might have a question for you, and I'll be to
Moderate. Okay.
moderate that thing. We'll see. I don't know who's going to be there.
Right.
Apparently, the room is set up nicely. Got a big
Hey
screen.
Mal,
Yes, sir.
we need the link. Where did you send that link so we can get it in this other laptop? You
Hell,
sent it, right?
hell, you just got on.
Well,
Where
I
did you?
got it on mine, but
Everybody
we
says the same.
but they need to have it to click on it, and it's on my phone. So yeah, I did that. I
It's
clicked on it,
it's
but
it's open June's mail. It's there.
okay, Gmail, right? On June's
Yeah,
Gmail.
I sent it to June and then copied
Wi-Fi.
everybody on the mailing list. So go to June.
Are you using the Correspondence Club Wi-Fi?
マルコムから来たメールに、ズームのインビテーションのコードが入ってるんですよ。出しますか？うん。ちょっと。
あ、そっちでやってもらった方がいいかもしれない。これなんか知らない。Gmail。
これを
Hey Mike, if I don't need to hear anything, turn that
ウェ
backup
ブ経
audio
済
on.
的に停止しているか、新しい。
I'm talking to Kim. Okay, cool. Um, that story about that baby.
Oh, Kyoto Kami-sama, the baby. Yes.
In fact, I was looking to go online and see if I could search history of something, see if there was a clip of that drama on. I couldn't find anything. Choto Kami-sama. But maybe we'll have some time later to really post-produce this thing and see if we can insert. If we could find that clip, that would be awesome, man.
Oh, well, June
Yeah.
should be able to help with that.
Yeah, maybe he could probably get it directly from who produced that? Is that a
That was on TBS. I
okay?
believe.
Oh, I got a long relationship with them. I used to do the Taju Hoso for TBS.
Oh, okay. So
40
yeah, I
years
believe
ago.
it was a
My
TBS.
CBS office was right there in TBS.
Mhm.
All my cats are retired though, so maybe we can find it. That would be great.
Yeah, because the
So
baby's.
where are you situated in Los Angeles?
Well, currently I am quarantining in Simi Valley, but normally I'm in Calabasas.
Oh, okay. Man, I used to be all over that place. Those places are in the valley, right?
Far out. Once you get to Calabasas, it stops being the valley and just is Calabasas because you're near Westlake Village and all of that, right?
Is that Ventura?
It's Ventura County. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So,
Awesome. Yeah,
but
man,
it's just with no traffic, you're 30 minutes from LA.
I did my 8 years in Cali and went straight to Japan from LA.
I remember.
Joined CBS Tokyo, man.
Yep.
Um, and I'm having so many reminiscings, thinking back of the days. And one of the things that has kept you in my mind for years is you taught me so much Japanese, but the most important thing you taught me very early on, you said, just say "daitai wakarimasu." I said, got it. I said, that's the kind of Nihongo speaker I am. Toriyasu daitai wakarimasu. Just about to, here comes June. Go ahead, man. Oh, he cut off the phone. What is that?
That's okay. That's okay, Mal. We cut that off.
Oh, he tried to call me. Did he find the link? I can try to find it and send it again. Mike, he's helping him hook up.
Okay. Does he have it?
I don't see anybody else join, so they're still. I can maybe
Did
access.
you find it?
Did he get the link, Mike?
I have it right here. Should I forward it to June?
Oh, it did successfully copy to you, right? Because you were on.
Yeah, yeah, that's how I'm on.
Okay, there we go. There's somebody coming in. This is June. Okay, he's in. Those. Hi. Mike, I see you. Okay. Our rectangles are probably going to get smaller. We can probably only have about, I've seen as many as 20 squares on one screen.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Paul Jackson, I don't know whether you met him. He came after you left. Great Herbie Hancock's Headhunters bassist. Passed away. I've been his business manager for the past 3-4 years.
Okay.
And here we got some old jacks on.
Hey, Mal.
特派員やった人。
Hey, Mal, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, we're having some issue trying to connect the laptop to Wi-Fi so that you can be on the big screen. So give us a minute. We'll try to
Hey,
figure it out.
Mike.
Yeah.
There's an engineer that did it successfully.
Yeah, I know.
We had
Yeah,
this
but
test
yeah, I
run
understand.
yesterday.
I understand that, but it's a different laptop this time, and he's having a problem.
Okay, June
We
is
got
now
the
connected.
engineer right here.
Here comes Toyama-san is now here.
今ね、立ってます。
Okay, now that's Toyama-san, but his computer.
You got to lower the audio because we're getting cross feed and feedback.
Yeah, but his computer is not connected to the big screen.
Toyama-san,
知ってるわかる
hey, わかるよ.
So Jim, can we connect this computer to the screen?
Tell June to put on some headphones or something because that audio is feeding back. Yoshio-san, konnichiwa. Mike, 開けてください.
Hi, konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
Hi,
How are you?
Toyama-san.
How are you?
Toyama-san.
Yes, I'm doing fine. I'll get my part.
Okay.
That's great.
He's great, man.
Just in case, I forwarded the link to June.
Appreciate it. Mike, you hear that?
No, yeah. Well, see, we have the link, but the link has to be on the laptop that we're trying to put your face on the big screen.
Oh,
See, that's the issue.
hey, you're too close to another computer.
竹山さん。
All the phones and all the computers are close. Give us a minute. Hold on.
Okay, the meeting is starting.
ちょっと寒いや。
寒いでしょ。あ、それ消しちゃったんだよ。ここにあるの。
これはついてない。
これここにあるの。
If I turn that on,
これどうやってつける
これ外したの。
のあ、そう。いや、いいのかな。あれどうやってつけるのこれ。それか。
I'm glad you're there, Mike. Toyama-san,
はい、はい、こんにちは。
konnichiwa.
Hello。
お久しぶりですね。
お久しぶりです。
ごめんね、
久しぶりでございます。
リモートで司会してますからね、ごめんなさい
いえ。
静岡県だから
あ、そうですね。
厳しいよ。
私もね、I had a little trouble too.
Oh, really?
I had a retinal detachment.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow, I had to have a operation でね。
You mean since we've spoken, right?
Yeah, last week I came out last week on Friday.
Mhm.
Okay.
I was in the hospital for a week.
Is that
Oh.
Gary Perlman?
大変
Hey,
You
man.
you have to face down for about a week.
Wow.
Is that you?
That's Perlman, man. He's hiding now.
But I'm fine now.
Hey, Gary, what's up, boy?
皆さん everybody.
Open the mic if you want to talk. It's okay. Just be mindful of the crossfeed. Okay. You do the sign
暑いこ
language.
れ暑い暑い
That means, can you read sign language? That means, it's about $2. I don't understand that. That sounds like Iwake.
Perlman, I didn't know you were going to make it, Gary.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, I just turned the sound.
はい、こんにちは、富山さん。どうもどうも。こんにちは。
Here's a-
ちょっと技術的な問題ありますから、
You have to say 純の友達。
純の友達です。
富山さん大丈夫？
マスク。
あ、誰純ちゃん
大丈夫？
ダメよ、網膜剥離。
網膜剥離。
それで、治
大動脈張りつつかびっくりした。
ったけどね、治ったけど、まだ赤いけど、
わかんないね。
こっちの目ね、こっちの目、ルノワール。こっちの目、ピカソ。
あ、パ
ピカソ。
こっちルノワール。
説明がうまい。
うまいですね。
もうしょうがない。
萌えは。
3280 3280
なるほどね。
網膜剥離じゃん。
So can we get all the? How do we get all the boxes on here?
Well, they're on my, as the host, I see everybody.
But wait a second. I'm gonna look at the
Change your gallery mode. Usually the speaker mode is fine. Whoever's speaking will be prominent.
Oh, here. Oh, sorry. I'm going to give this back to June. Hold on.
Okay. 富山さん、
はい、
ママ、こんにちは。
ママさん。
よろしく。また教えてくださいよ。
はいはい。
上手。
No,
こんにちは。
ナイスピアニスト。
Oh, there's June.
ジュンさん、こんにちは。
ジュンさん、こんにちは。
今。
じゃあ、あと1分。大丈夫？
はい。
僕のも体調があったけど、これも伝えた方がいいんです。
皆さんあれなのね。
そうですね。はい。
こんにちは、ご無沙汰してます。
ジュンさん、一ついいですか？もうほとんどみんなマイクカットした方がいいから、フィードバックはすごいあるから、しゃべるときだけ開けてくださいね。その方が安全。きれいな録音になりますからね。しないとハウリングになっちゃう。マイク、if you could.
Yeah.
Man,
You
can manage that.
If they got the Zoom on, you want me to mute their mic. Okay. I don't have a Zoom address. How do I do that? What's your email? gp@gmail.com.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Everybody gets it.
Well, Maybe バッテリーを僕のバッグから出して。
Everybody turn your volume down. And...
バッグ、not this.
Oh,
All you
Takashi
gotta do is
san.
plug this in and it's gonna charge.
No.
You need an extension cord.
Okay, now we've got 6. Ah, that's the camera I want to see. That's the one I want to. Arigato. Arigato gozaimasu. Now we can see the room.
方たちは外人記者クラブで。誰だよ。
Big screen, huh?
純ちゃんがいる。
あと、クラブの関係の。
あとは行けなかった。行かない。
これ、こっちで。
Gary, what's your email? What's your email address? GP at GOL.com.
Gary, it should be in your mailbox. I copied you on the link.
これが見る。あ、これか、か、
その後、みんなこっち書いて、こうやってハウリングしちゃうんですよ。だから、
これ13でしょ。
これ一緒にシェアできるから。そこに一つある。
あ、はい、置いとく。
ここに出てくるけどね。
あ、ここから出てくるね。
出てきたらもうこれやめた方がいい。ほら、エコしてる。
あ、そうね。これちょっとミュートしよ
ああ、その方がいいよ。
いや、あれはね、あれは1960年だから、コンクリートやった後か、やった後にして、あれで、やってみてるんだよね。そうそう、ちょっと遅いよね。
Okay, here's Gary. Enter, please. Hi. Hey, Gary. こんにちは。
あれからいいですね。
If you want to talk, open your mic. Otherwise, you can leave it off. But your mic's off. Let me hear your voice.
We're going to leave it off for the moment because it echoes. So I'll.
Right. No. Let me 監督するから話したいときは開けてくださいよ。
よろしくお願いします。
よろしくどうぞ。Let's have one guy run the show. Yeah? That way it'll be smooth.
やってくれってことで。
そろそろ。Hey, Mike Coleman, how about the big screen? Is it on?
Yeah, the big screen is on.
Great. Just let me know when we can roll and I'll start, man.
Okay, hold on a second. What you mentioned?
まだこれ。
Beth! Oh, I got to mute. So I have to mute myself.
I'll say. That's the best instruction you've given yourself in years. Mute myself.
Gary Pearl.
Okay. My man. I'm glad I'm moderating because I don't know how to mute myself over here. Keep yourself, you're a very quiet guy, man. You're good.
You have many skills, Mal, but muting yourself is not
that is not one of them. All of my other skills derive from not being able to mute myself. If I mute myself, I'll be back in Nebraska somewhere. Trying to make a go of it.
That's funny. Make a go of it.
Yeah, right. Boy, we got a lot to share, brother, about this Japan experience, man. And I couldn't think of a better guy to kick this off with your experiences. Wow, who does that? I think I'll preface your introduction with, folks, don't try this in America.
Try this at home.
Do not imitate Mr. Bass. Kim, I might want to visit. If we have time for Q&A, I'm going to ask you about something, and I need your opinion. Do you remember when we went to Narita Airport and had a Kashikiri meeting with Al Mansour?
Yes, I do.
Wow. If we only knew who we were dealing with at the time. He had about $10 million in his pocket. He was on his way to Fiji to supply him with some armaments, if I recall. Oh my God. That story we need to chat about someday.
No, we don't.
No, we can forget that one.
I might run for office someday.
Yeah.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, I know that guy. But I actually knew him before he became, he was a soapbox, street corner rapper, kind of a activist cat, man. Mike Coleman, whenever you say, I'll wait for your command.
いいでいいみんなここにいるんだね。
Oh ho.
Okay, now I can see the whole room.
Yeah, that's great. That's what I was hoping to get yesterday, but figured it out. That's great.
I can take a photo of this.
Mike Coleman, can you hear me? Yo, Mike Coleman? Oh. Sanji 7分なんですけれど、皆さんもう少々お待ちくださいですね。Please just wait a few minutes more, and they'll let me know when we can start.
で、奥様やね。
Oh, is that June's Oksan?
Is that Emi-san?
Takashi-san no Oksan desu ka?
I think so. Is that Emi? It's Emi-san, right?
会ったことないと思う。
Next to Gary, right?
Yeah, maybe, huh? Is that Takashi-san no computer ですね。その人は。Mike Coleman, can you hear me? Gary, could you alert Mike to respond?
I'm in the middle of trying to do this.
Mike, can you respond to?
Yeah, no, you gotta wait a minute. Wait a second.
Okay. Tell him it's on him. Just tell me when he's ready to go.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm going to mute myself now.
Okay.
That's how most people like me. Gary.
We love it.
Okay, Kim.
Yes.
Jim wants me to introduce you to Mr. Takeyama Mr. Yo Takeyama.
Did you get it?
He's
Akiyama-san, hajimemashite. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu.
he's the one who connected us to Mark Schilling is his friend.
Yes,
That's how we got all of him and to break the news when
Oh.
it time comes.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me, Gary?
Lima, those are not. No. What time is it in LA? We want to know.
It
It must be
is
late.
almost 10 past 11.
Okay, 10 past 11. Yeah, so it's not too bad. It's not for him. Bass doesn't sleep, it's okay. It doesn't matter. His case.
See, now, tell how I'm trying to get this.
Well, Bass, you do exist. It's impossible to reach you. I'm gonna have to hold kaigis in the Foreign Correspondents Club to talk to you next time.
I invited you to dinner on Sunday with your brother.
Oh, thank you. Is that this Sunday?
This Sunday, yes.
Oh, cool. I'll try to pop in. I'll call you during. What time is it? At 6?
Dinner was at 8 o'clock.
I'll remember that. Okay, I have to mute myself. That's the way most people like me. Let me know when you need me.
All right.
すごいデフォルメ。
じゃあ、それはなんだろうな。
Gary, you can hear me. Although you're mute, Gary, you can hear me, huh?
まだ時間かかりそうだ。
何やってんの？
音声が出ない。マイクの声も。
これを見ようっていうの？これを見るっていうの？
これじゃなくて、全体の。
大きくしてみる。
プログラムで作った。
まとめたのは。
ビューイング。試写会。
試写会。
なんか飲んでるのとか、コーヒーとか。
ね、緑茶とか。
コーヒーは
コーヒーがいい？じゃあ、椿コーヒーの特別。
目薬入れ
目薬。
入れてくるね。
よいしょ。
Hey, Gary. Hey, Gary. Hey, Gary. Mr. Perlman. Gary.
Yes, hello.
You mute me, but I see you talking, man. You running your mouth. Listen, please.
Are you married right now? What are you? I don't know your story. I haven't seen you in so long.
Who, me?
Yes.
We just met in the Roppongi Hills a few months ago.
Just met them 6 months ago, dude. And that was the first time in 30 years.
Right after that, I went right into the hospital with a mild stroke. So I'm rehabilitating, yeah.
You had a stroke right after you left.
I did not know that. I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry, brother. I'm here, man. Do I look sad?
You look amazing.
He terrorized those nurses, man, every day.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
you don't look a day above 80.
Listen, you're my Nihongo no senpai da kara, so退院してなかった。釈放された。
解放されてね。
釈放された。なぜなら、ナースコールバトン使いすぎ。世の中で。お願いします。こっちこっち。
I did not know that.
I'm gonna mute myself again by popular demand.
Well, listen. Let me just say this. I think you may have to be the person to communicate from Mike to me because he may not be able to. It's looking like he's having some device issues. I'm not sure. So please.
No. Hey Mel, I'm not having any issues, man. Hold on a second.
Just keep me.
We're trying to get everybody connected.
I see. Okay.
We're ready to go. We're ready to go in a minute.
Okay. Thank you. I'll just leave it up to you, man. Somebody just checked in. I think you succeeded, maybe. Oh,
okay, looks like we're ready to go.
Yeah. Koibuchi-san, yoroshiku. My camera's ahead of me, so I have to look at the camera and I can't see the monitor. So, are we ready, Mike?
誰なの？新しい。
石井さん。こ
っちの。
こっちでイヤホンで聞いたの聞きやすい。
Are you good, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay. Just let me know. Here we go. Mike, please have everybody to mute their mics, but I'm gonna ask everyone just to aisatsu suru, and just when they're ready to speak, open the mic and then kill it later so we don't have cross feed. Okay, we are recording on this end, and if everybody's ready, June.
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay.
でかいかなこれだと。
じゃあ皆さんこんにちは。
こんにちは。
お待たせしました。
いい外してくれる？
私は 今日の司会、マル・アダムスと申します。それで日本語終わりです。Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club and the sneak preview viewing of what hopefully will become an NHK or a Netflix regular series of episodes dealing with Black history in Japan, uniquely enough. We have so much testimony to attest to the Black historical experience in Japan. And our primary guest here today hails from Southern California in the USA. 皆さん、大きな拍手お願いします。Kim Bass is with us today. 拍手お願いします。これからもよろしくお願いします。That's my young brother. And then I see other familiar faces. Where is my Dai Senpai, Mr. Jun-san はどこにいる？
ジュンさんで。
聞こえない。顔見せてください、Jun. Oh, Mike's blocking your view. He doesn't appear on the camera. Be sure everybody gets their face on because I'm recording this Zoom session. And Jun, よろしくお願いします. And then my good friend Michael Coleman is here with us. Mike Coleman. こっち見てください。
どこ？どこに？
また問題あるみたいな感じですね。はい。I thought you said we was ready, man. Don't give me no false starts. 鳥山さん、意味わかりますか？ False start.
False start.
No, nobody wants to say there's an issue, but I can see there's an issue. わかりやすいよ。
横向いちゃった。
あ、横向いちゃってる。誰だろう。
Gary さんね。Everybody's trying to look at your face, man. We're doing like this. じゃあ回りますから、while we're waiting, no, there is Mr. 竹山さん。こんにちは、はじめまして。どうもよろしくお願いします。
音が入ってる。
聞こえないから、マイク開けてください。喋るときにはね、お願いします。And then we have マサルさん、恋淵さん、よろしくお願いします。マルちゃんと申しますよ。マルちゃん。
マサルコン。
OK。マルコン。本名はマルコム・アダムスと申しますから、みんなマルコメミソのマルコン覚えてますか？もう日本長いからいっぱい親父ギャグ入ってますから、ポッキーの中。Mike and June, talk to me. What's going on?
I think Toyama-san's mic is not muted.
Oh, mute. Do I have to mute
Yes,
the mic?
sir. ごめんなさい。
わかりました。
OK、皆さん耳貸してください。いいですか？一つ決まりありますから、みんなマイクミュートしてください。喋りたい時には開けてくださいだけですね。いいですか？じゃあそろそろ始まりましょう。マイク・コールマン、are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And you could turn those volumes down too, so that'll.
Yeah, we're trying, man. It's just this one computer.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. It's
No,
all the voices coming out.
No, it's this computer. The sound cannot be turned down.
So turn all it down.
It's the speakers perhaps, or the big screen monitors got an audio output as well.
Right.
Yeah, the computer that is projecting onto the big screen.
Yeah.
That is the one that the sound cannot be turned down. We're hearing an echo coming from now.
So is the sound emanating from the screen monitors? Are they built-in speakers? If that's the case, mute them.
音が出る。
出なくしたいじゃん。
Can you see the screen at the bottom right? It says Panasonic TV.
I don't have that on my it supposed
It's okay.
to?
Let's go on. Yeah.
Okay. Everybody's mic is muted. Okay, Mike Coleman, you take it over. If you need to talk, talk to me. Okay, very good. 皆さんお待たせしました。Let's go move on. We've got a lot of ground to cover here. By way of explanation, today it's been 3 weeks since we conducted our Zoom interview, ですね? Or maybe more. I'm crazy になっちゃった。世の中まで編集してますから普通の仕事なんだけど、これはサイドビジネスで。So, 今、this is a rough cut. またフィニッシュプロダクトじゃないからね。そう、皆さん、キム・ベスさんのピースはもうそろそろ終わりますから、他のメンバーのピースは複数だけですね。We will play back Toyama san's very nice trumpet playing and June's introduction of him, and of course Mike Coleman's personal story. And I have made some introductory comments. What you're watching is Japan Journal, 私のオンライン放送、オンライン cybercast の形になりますから。So this will be a series of episodes that will be streamed over social media. For now, is where I'm broadcasting. Hopefully, we can get this kind of thing picked up and we'll be able to do a series that can be broadcast on NHK or some other medium will pick it up. So, without any further ado, we just said hi to Kim Bass. Let me say hi to Michael Coleman, who's got my back there on location. Mike, wave your hand there. All right. And then there's June-san, yoroshiku. Wave your hand. Everybody knows June. And Toyama-san, my new friend, yoroshiku. And Oku-san desu ne, Toyama, Mrs. Toyama. And now we have Gary Perlman there, who's a longtime friend. All of us are connected to Mr. Kim Bass, on whose behalf we are here and we are gathered to commemorate, celebrate, and initiate the initial promotion of his mission to do the Yasuke silver screen version of that man's story. So, よろしくお願いします。Now, Masaru san, Koibuchi san, よろしくお願いします。And Takeyama san ですね。Okay. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. I have discovered that Zoom will allow me, if you upgrade to the Pro version, I have endless minutes. So I've been conducting my English language classes on Zoom recently because of the Corona protocols. I am talking to you from beautiful downtown Kakegawa City in the western Shizuoka Prefecture. 知ってる人手を挙げてください。Do you know? 家康とかがこの地域でよく休んだからね。And so I'm in Kakegawa City, and I was unable to come today because of the Corona protocol and the restrictions. Had I gone or left the prefecture, I would have had to quarantine for 2 weeks before I could resume my school and conduct classes at the various locations. So June is very understanding, and Michael is there supporting, so we're able to do it, fortunately, by Zoom. So if there are any other technical problems, please gamashite kudasai and kyoruku shite kudasai. We're going to do our best. So much for the preliminary comments. Let's get right to the show. I'm going to share my screen with you, and my sharing allows me to optimize this for video, and I will be able to share my sound with you. And I will go to the advanced mode, and I will upload the first video, which is the piece I just finished this morning with Kim Bass, BHJ, Black History in Japan, Episode 1, Segment 1, Mr. Kim Bass. Listen, please, and you'll hear my introductory remarks. Let's go. Okay. Good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Japan Journal, the internet's #1 weekly English language online cybercast from Japan. Japan Journal with your host, Mal Adams. I'm here to talk about our upcoming pilot program, which is destined to become a regular series on a major network or Netflix. But here we sit in Japan celebrating Black history, the Black history of Japan, since we as African Americans, me personally, over 4 decades in self-imposed exile, living in the nation that I love, and really not escaping from the United States, but making a choice to raise a family here in Japan. My African ancestors came to America on a boat by force. I flew a 747 to Japan by choice. You must live somewhere. And I chose this beautiful nation of Japan to pursue my life, liberty, and happiness, and have done so successfully along with others whom we will profile in this early offering of Black history in Japan. So, without any further ado, sit back, relax, and take a look at this pilot. It is a work in progress, but we'll rest assured that you will get the point that we're trying to make here. Thank you very much. Brother Mal, take it away.
Japan Journal, the internet's #1 English language weekly online cybercast from Japan. Japan Journal with Mal Adams.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to Japan Journal, the internet's #1 weekly English language online cybercast from Japan. I'm your host, Mal Adams. Black History Month is a month-long annual celebration of achievements by Black Americans, and a time for recognizing their central role in U.S. history. Here at Japan Journal, we believe that Black history should be celebrated not only during the month of February, but year-round. As President Emeritus of the Japan African American Friendship Association, or JAFA, and a Black expatriate resident of Japan who first arrived here more than 4 decades ago, I and my fellow resident Black brothers and sisters here are seizing the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in Japan, who have excelled in every area of endeavor throughout our history here. Japan Journal is committed to anti-racism and modeling this behavior with our actions and the pursuit of knowledge, and then sharing that knowledge with others, because we believe that recognizing Black history is also about justice for Black futures in the USA and throughout the diaspora, wherever we may choose to live. So in that regard, we begin our coverage of this new series about Black history in Japan with a fascinating story about an African who became the first Black samurai warrior here nearly 500 years ago. The man who is poised to bring that story of Yasuke to the big screen is our first guest on Japan Journal today, Mr. Kim Bass. As we observe Black history in Japan, we're celebrating his incredible journey from a small-town boy in upstate New York to an award-winning Hollywood writer and director. He is one of the first African Americans I met when I first came to Japan 4 decades ago. He is a dear friend and a brother to me, Mr. Kim Bass.
So like many young people, you know, I was trying to find my way as a teenager, and I had gone to college in Montreal, Canada. But prior to that, at age 15, was the first time I had studied karate. And my teacher was from Japan, and that was the first time I ever met anyone from Japan. And since this is Black History Month, I think it's poignant. It's a poignant point I'd like to make. It was actually an incident of racism, white on black racism, which brought me to karate, believe it or not. And so at age 15, I and my best friend, Tyrone, who was already a martial artist, we went to a high school dance. And we were both in a Catholic school, and we went to this dance, and we were the only two Black people at this dance, this high school dance. And we were dancing and having a good time with the different various girls. And during a time when we were taking a break, we went into the sort of the back room, the cafeteria area, to get something to drink. And at that time, 7 other young high school students, who happened to all be Caucasians, surrounded us and said that they didn't like us dancing with their women. And because of that, they were now going to beat us up to get to teach us a lesson. And my friend Tyrone, who had been studying martial arts since he was 8 years old, he went into sort of a fighting position and expected me to do the same thing. And of course, I had no idea on how to fight. Well, once they found out he knew karate, they became afraid and they didn't want to fight anymore. So what we ended up doing is being able to get out of that situation, not because he used karate, but because he knew it. And that impressed me very much, that they just heard and could see that he knew it, and they backed down. So it was two against 7. And our teacher, our sensei, was from Japan, and he was a great sensei. It was Kyokushinkai-kan style karate, and very small school. There were only 7 students, but he was so impressive to me as a person, and his philosophy about Bushido, and it just had a great impact on me. So I always started to dream about going to Japan based on that experience and having that sensei. So that's actually what triggered inside me to come to Japan. It was literally a white on black racial incident which drove me to karate, and then that led me to Japan. So I eventually went off to college in Canada, but I always wanted to do 2 things: be in the film business as a writer, director, potentially an actor, and my martial arts. And so I ended up going to a homestay program in Japan when I was 20 years old. And then after about 3 years of flying internationally as a flight attendant, I decided to move to Tokyo. So I moved to Japan in 1980 in order to continue studying martial arts and to just enjoy the culture, because I liked it so much during my homestay there, years earlier. And that's how I got to Japan. And once I was there, I got a job at an English college, Sunshine Gaigo Gakuen, teaching English. But soon enough, I met Jun Takahashi, who then set up various auditions for me as I began to learn the language. And I ended up on various television shows, Choto Kami-sama, Zahangman, and Taiyo ni Koero, and did various movies and stage plays. And eventually I ended up in a movie with Jackie Chan. I was cast in Japan to go to Hong Kong to do a movie called The Protector with Jackie Chan back in 1980. I guess that was been 85 or 84, and finished filming in 85, the beginning of 85. But so that was sort of my career. But Japan was absolutely a magnificent place for me. I met wonderful, wonderful people, both Japanese and certainly other foreigners. Michael Coleman, you being one of them, you became a friend, and Mal Adams became a friend. And of course, Jun Takashi's been a lifelong friend. But my experience in Japan to excel, to follow one's dream, to follow one's heart, actually came from my great-great-grandfather. His name was Tolliver Holmes, and he was an enslaved person in Virginia. In 1863, he escaped slavery, and he walked and ran, being chased by dogs and slave hunters for 500 miles to upstate New York. And at that time, he joined the Union Army to go back down south to help fight to free other slaves. Well, he survived the Civil War. He returned to upstate New York, where he married and raised a family, and he begot my great-grandfather, then my grandfather, and in that same area, then my mother, and then my mother begot me, and I always had my great great grandfather's spirit. I held close to my heart about, you know, achieving one's dreams. And I thought if he could escape bondage and take himself where he wanted to go, I could always take myself where I wanted to go. Now, his great grandson, my grandfather, became one of the first Black persons to become a mayor in the entire state of New York. Now imagine, he's the grandson of an escaped enslaved person, and he becomes mayor of an all-white town in upstate New York. Their family was literally the only Black family there. Now, this is what's interesting. Not only was he made mayor, he wasn't even running for mayor. What happened there were two other people running for mayor, and they didn't like either candidate. And most of the people in the town, about 70% of them, wrote in my grandfather's name, which is how he became mayor.
That's possible?
It's possible. And he became mayor, and he was mayor they have a 2-year term. He was mayor for 2 years. Now, this is what's interesting when sort of the racism sort of came in and became ugly. He was mayor, and they made a big deal out of it in the history books and the newspapers because of my grandfather being a write-in candidate. But after his term, and he told the townsfolk, I'm busy and I prefer not to be mayor anymore. So he didn't run. And when he didn't run, in the newspapers, they literally had a headline, first Black mayor ousted after 1 term. So they made it a negative. Well, that so upset my grandfather. That after the 2-year term of this now white mayor who replaced him in an all-white town, he said, this time I want to run for mayor. And he ran, he won overwhelmingly, maybe 80% of the vote. And he was mayor until he died. And so his house is a historical landmark in New York State. There's a park that's dedicated to him, the Everett Holmes Memorial Park, where my family has its family reunion every year. So
wow, that's amazing.
With spirit like that, with adventure like that, I could do no less than to follow my own heart and follow my own dreams. And I learned a great deal from my grandfather, who learned a great deal from, you know, his grandfather and great grandfather. Upstate New York was sort of became a hub for escaped enslaved people because it was a jumping off point to cross over to Canada. So as you know, many former enslaved Black folks who came through the Underground Railroad, which was run by Harriet Tubman, many of them came to upstate New York, the Utica, New York area, Syracuse, New York area. And so it became well known. Now, both sides of my family on my mother's side, both the matrilineal side and patrilineal side, all met in upstate New York in a place called Delhi, New York, which is right in the center, near the center of New York State. And again, once you got to upstate New York, then it was much easier. You make arrangements, and then you could cross over to Canada for total freedom if you so chose. The thing that I respect about my great grandfather is that he made it to upstate New York, and then he made the choice not to go to Canada, but to actually join the Union Army. They had a Black regiment, to join the Union Army, to go back south to help fight to free other enslaved people during the middle of the Civil War. It was 1863. He was 23 years old. And when he escaped, his father and mother were still enslaved people in Virginia. Yeah. And he joined the Union Army. He joined the Union Army and went back south and fought, and he survived. But upstate New York became that kind of place. And that's why, as you said, Mal, many prominent formerly enslaved folks found themselves in upstate New York. One afternoon, Jun Takahashi, who was my manager and agent in Japan, he arranged for me to have an audition for a new series, a new primetime series with the title of Chotto Kami-sama, that starred Kato and Morishita Aiko. And when I went to the audition, I assumed I'd be probably the only Black person going in for this audition, because I really hadn't met too many other Black people when I was in Japan, based upon where I worked and where I lived. And I walk into this room and there's a large table set up. It's in a square, and there must have been about 13 brothers sitting there. And I thought, wow, I didn't realize there was going to be a big competition for this audition. And one of the persons there was Michael Coleman. Now, what was interesting is that I'd been in Japan at that point, I guess about 3 years, I think, maybe, yeah, about 3 years. And I lived in a community where there were only Japanese people. So though my Japanese wasn't perfect, it was pretty good at the time. And I ended up becoming the interpreter for the producer and the director over the interpreter. They had this young woman who was struggling, and I went last for my audition, and they really didn't have an audition. It was more of an interview. And as one person after another got dismissed and they asked me to stay behind, it became pretty clear that they were locking in on me. And I think only because, certainly not my looks, but I think it was because of my, I guess my sort of serviceable level of Japanese. But Michael Coleman, across the table, I noticed he was giving me the eye and he had a little smile. And when I walked outside, everyone else was gone, but he had waited for me to come out, and he wanted to know where I came from.
Yeah, right.
And we started talking.
So did I when I first met you.
Right. And so, and he said, you know, he was involved in martial arts, and I told him that I was involved in martial arts as well, and he invited me to the school where he trained. And I think there might have been some part there where I just about dislocated his arm, and we became best friends.
I think you kicked me in the face and almost knocked me out. That's what happened.
And we were buddies. After that, he invited me to his home. I met his lovely wife, and we just became friends. And we went out clubbing sometimes and martial arts. And you know, Mike was a good guy.
I've got an interjection to make here regarding that, if I may, Tim.
Yes.
Do you remember when I met both of you, and I wanted to feature you on one of my early CBS shows? I think it was before CNN, so I invited you to be a subject of my coverage. I wanted to share your story with America and Black America in particular. You had appeared in Ebony magazine, and you gained some notoriety as that brother in Japan, so to speak, if we can review that history. And then to help facilitate my video, you invited Mike Coleman to come and spar with you. And the joke between me and Mike for 40 years, we haven't, maybe we shared this with you early on, but I think you roundhoused him to the head, and he was playing the understudy for you, and we laugh about that to this day. I just wanted to tell you. But speak to the audience, our listeners. Speak to the audience about the day I covered you for CBS, and you and Mike performed for me so that I could make you famous.
Yes, I remember the CBS piece. It played nationwide, and as a matter of fact, Mal, I don't know this, but when they knew the piece was going to come out in my hometown of Utica, New York, they certainly a couple of teachers actually brought televisions into their classrooms and showed students the piece. They showed that they watched it live in Utica, New York. My mother's phone was ringing off the hook, and they talked about me coming from Utica, and it was quite well received all over the country, but certainly in Utica, New York. And I remember I asked Mike to come in to help with our sort of martial arts bit and our piece. And then of course, you know, Mike being the generous person that he is, he made me look even better than I actually, you know, was at the time. You know, it's like a Hollywood stuntman. I did the kicking and poor Mike did the falling and the
Yeah, because we did that. And he didn't even get interviewed by me. No. And we did that at my dojo in Kinchicho.
Right.
We went to Kinchicho and we used the large dojo in Kinchicho to do that. And we had a rehearsal before the thing happened. And
you wasn't supposed to hit me so hard. In the rehearsal, you kind of like just didn't really hit me, right? But when it went for the real cut, you just almost ripped my head off.
All these years later, I apologize. Moshawake gozaimasen.
Kim, I did want you to comment. You mentioned earlier about being isolated in Japan early on as the only brother in your neighborhood. Speak to us a little bit in terms of engaging some Japanese culture and lifestyle points. I remember visiting you in a town near Ikebukuro, and you walked me through your village. There was the fruit market. There were the people greeting you like you were the Pied Piper. I mean, describe that a little bit, how it was for you to live in a Japanese small community in Tokyo and become a guy of notoriety just because of your being the other guy or different. But you related to them well. The point I'm trying to make is, how important are relationships in Japan, regardless of your race, creed, or color? Speak to that.
Well, and you're right. The little town was Otsuka, so it was two stops from Ikebukuro on the Marunouchi-sen, the subway, and it was a quaint, almost like a separate village from Tokyo. And you're right; they had a beautiful market street where people went every day to buy their food items, and it had a very sort of provincial, a very country feel, even though you were in the middle of Tokyo. And I apparently was the first, so I was told, Black person who had ever lived in that area. They had one teacher they told me about before I moved there, and he happened to be an American, and he happened to be Caucasian. And when I moved to that area, I was a curiosity at first. The kids would come up to me and want to ask me questions. But one of the first sort of good friends I made was an elderly woman, Oba-chan, everyone called her that. She might have been about 85 years old. And one of the first things she asked me is, she came to me and she said, "Kochi, kochi, kochi." And I went to her and she asked me if I could speak Japanese. And I said, if you speak slowly, I generally will understand what you say. So each morning when I would walk, she was up very early and walking in the morning when I was up doing some training. And we would walk every day, and I practiced Japanese with her every morning, and then speaking to the people in the neighborhood. And they all got to know me, of course. But one thing that was very funny, I'll share a story with you, is that as I would walk through the neighborhood and they'd say, "Oh, that's Kim-san, he's a teacher, he's a teacher." They were very, as you know, in Japan, they revere teachers. So they understood that I was an English teacher at the college, at Sunshine Language School. And so they gave me respect for being a teacher. Ultimately, they asked me if I could teach their children English as well on the side. So I actually had a little classroom set up in my apartment, and I taught the 5, 6, and 7-year-old kids English twice a week in my apartment. And the parents really were appreciative of that. And so as I continued to live there, every day I would speak to these people, I would buy my food, I became part of the community, and I was just, to them, I was just Kim-san. Once I started appearing on television because of what Jun Takahashi did for me, now they see me knowing famous people and they see me on television, and they thought that was really special. That was above being a teacher. Not only was I now on television and in their minds famous, I was their Kim-san. I belonged to their neighborhood and I was the star from their neighborhood. And that's what made sort of my interactions, really interesting. But they would critique my acting. I would come down the street sometime and they would say, "Oh, Kim-san, we saw you on television." And the wife might say, "Oh, you were wonderful." And the husband said, "Oh, no, his acting was terrible. You have to do better."
Yeah, right. Okay. Kim, that's great stuff, man. And I'm coming off the dome, as it were. I'm remembering things that I think would enhance this particular interview, and that's a very beautiful one. I remember particularly walking down that street. We stopped off at the fruit market, and people surrounded you. And I might have had a camera on you at that time, I'm not sure. But you were definitely representing, as they say, the Black community.
Well, yes, and Mal, if I might, I would like to share one sort of, because it's Black History Month and something that was very meaningful to me. Okay, so the show,
yes, please.
The series Chotto Kami-sama, which of course was extremely well received in Japan, and it was a big hit, prime time, one of the most watched shows at prime time when it was on, with Kato Go, of course. He was quite famous. Well, one story that people might not know, and I won't use names because I don't want to embarrass anyone, but in the show, I was married to a Japanese woman and we had a child. And the wife then was killed in a car accident. And the child was left with me and with her brother, my brother-in-law, who was played by Kato Go. Well, what people don't know, and this is a wonderful story, the baby that they used to play my son on the series was actually a girl, number one, but she played a boy. She was, maybe 8, 9 months old. That child was the result of a marriage between an African-American serviceman down in Yokosuka, I believe, and a Japanese woman who had come from a small village way outside of Tokyo. And her parents disowned her when she married this Black man. And she had not been home for several years. And her child then is cast as my child. So every week when the child was on the show, the grandparents, without knowing it, were watching their own granddaughter, their own grandchild on this show. And when it was time for the last episode of when it was time for the last episode of the show, it was a very touching episode. I'm sure June remembers it. And it's when my character is asking the brother-in-law to please take care of the child, that I need to go back to America to further my studies, but I would return someday. And Kato Go's character agrees to do that. And I say to him, as the character, I say to him, but maybe, a woman you might want to marry won't want this child because of it being a biracial child. And his words were, I would never marry such a woman. And I thought that was very telling. Now the show ends, it's very emotional, it's terrific. And the young woman whose child it actually was, she called her parents before that episode and said, I want to make sure you watch this episode. Though you have never seen your grandchild, that is your grandchild. And that episode dealt with prejudice. And after the show aired, the next morning, the woman whose child it was, she called me crying. And her parents had called her. They had watched that last episode, this beautiful, touching episode where the Japanese brother-in-law accepted the child, and they told her to come home and to bring the child, to bring their granddaughter home to
wow.
Them. And she crawled, she thanked me for it. And I thought to myself, just that phone call from her telling me that her parents said, please come home. We want you to come home and to bring our grandchild. We want to meet her. And she just thanked me, but I thanked her because it made doing that show worthwhile, just because it changed her life, and I am assuming it changed her child's life as well. But isn't that a wonderful story where they didn't accept their own child, but on television, when they saw a Japanese man accept the child, then they actually fell in love with their own child over a television screen. So I think that's a really wonderful story.
Yeah, that's amazing, man.
Great, amazing story. Yeah, that is, I remember the basics of that, man, but this end story, I had never heard it, never realized. Yeah. Thank you very much, Kim, for sharing that.
I'd like to talk to you about Yasuke. Yasuke was an African enslaved person brought to Japan in 1579 by Jesuit priests. Alessandro Vigliano, who was called the Visitor of the East. He was in charge of the Catholic Church in all of East Asia. And as his manservant, he brought this Black man with him to both be his servant and his bodyguard. And the simple story of Yasuke, though it's complicated, was that he arrived in Japan as an enslaved person, and through his own efforts, intelligence, and his ability to learn the language and understand the culture, became a favorite of Oda Nobunaga, who was at the time the most powerful warlord in Japan, working and fighting various battles in order to unify Japan. The story is unbelievably incredible. It's an epic story on the scale of Gladiator meets Black Panther meets Braveheart. And I learned about the story probably my second year in living in Japan, when a young boy in the neighborhood had a children's book. And he showed me this book, and it was about Yasuke. The title, I believe, was Kurosuke. And he showed me this book. He was about an 8-year-old boy in my neighborhood in Otsuka, and he pointed at me, and he said, "Onaji, onaji, you're the same." And I started using that book in order to study Japanese, to help me learn to read Japanese. It was a children's book I started with, and it was the Yasuke book. And once I learned about the story being true, about him becoming a warrior and becoming a samurai, all the way from slavery to samurai, I was intrigued by the story ever since. And I thought at some point in my life, my career as a filmmaker, I would eventually be able to tell that story. It was my dream to be able to return to Japan someday. Well, after the success of Black Panther worldwide, many studios started to think about what other big sort of Black hero type stories can we tell. And the push was on. And I thought I was actually scheduled to go and meet with Lionsgate regarding a Yasuke project that they wanted to do. And I did a director's vision statement and sent it in, because I thought, oh, there's no way this story is going to be made without me. And while I was waiting for my meeting, I decided to write my own screenplay. And once I wrote the screenplay, I contacted Jun Takahashi, who then contacted Mr. Koibuchi, and there was Miwako Fujioka, who did a beautiful translation script, and of course, my very good friend, Gary Perlman.
Yeah, Gary.
And the script, so the script was the screenplay was sent to June, and once he read it, he said, "I think that we can help you make this film in Japan with the support of many of the companies and perhaps even some government support in Japan." And so I began to contact various people here in Hollywood, get the screenplay read, and got some development funding put together. I've been able to get the visual effects company on board. I've got the composers on board. And I took the project to Bank Hapoalim, which happens to be an Israeli bank, and put my proposal together for them. And they gave me terms for $75 million in order to be able to facilitate the filming of this movie. So as we put the project together, we are looking for the right distributor, because it takes the distribution deal in order to trigger the funding. But we've gotten that far along. So we have our bank, which will loan for the production. We have visual effects teams. We have, as I say, some infrastructure coming together quite nicely. But we have been interrupted now by, of course, the COVID pandemic has made things a bit challenging. But being able to reach back to Japan and to my connections and to Jun Takahashi was a blessing to me, because one of my pitches here in Hollywood regarding this project, they said, "Well, why you?" And I said, number one, I feel I have made steps in Yasuke's shoes. I studied sword. I speak the language. I lived in Japan, and Bushido in martial arts was something that, was in my soul. And in addition to that, I have people like Jun Takahashi who can help me get the right team put together in Japan in order to make this film. And so it put me and this project ahead of, I believe, the other projects that people were trying to make, because they couldn't put the infrastructure together. And I think in order to do this film right, you need to be able to do it in Japan. And in order to do it in Japan, you need the cooperation of a great Japanese team. And that's where Jun Takahashi came in, because as we all know, his connections in the film and television industry run deep. They run very deep.
Very deep.
And so, yeah, I felt very well taken care of as far as the Japanese connection is concerned. And Jun has been able to get other people involved, and we have terrific locations. We're going to get cooperation from various entities in Japan that can help bring this epic to the big screen. And my pitch here in Hollywood has been, this is the greatest story never told. And once they took a look at the screenplay and some of the sort of elements that were put together on the project, people are now beginning to agree. It's an action movie. It's a movie about redemption. It's a movie about fighting for one's freedom. And it's a story about human beings allowing to flourish as an equal member of the human tribe, so to speak. And imagine a story about a man who is brought to a foreign land as an enslaved person in bondage by the most powerful entity on earth, which was the cat at the time, coupled with the Portuguese military, and rising from the lowest low to the highest high in a society that was very stratified. And he ended up becoming not only a samurai, but a samurai trusted to be next to the most powerful warlord in Japan, as Nobunaga Oda was. And so it's a tremendous story. There were multiple battles. Ninja were involved. So the pitch for the story has been spectacular in its nature, and it's starting to, really propel itself towards a production. And I have to thank Jun, wholeheartedly for being able to see, the vision and being able to then put together a team in Japan and get me into the highest offices, at Toho, the largest production company in Japan, and of course the largest theater owner in Japan, took meetings based on this project because of Jun Takahashi and his connection. So I believe that we are going to make a film that is going to be well received around the world, that people can actually gravitate towards because of this story, which is universal in its nature. It's mankind's nature to be free and to be respected and to be able to live the life that, that has been their own destiny, but not determined by others. And I think that's why this is so special and why it's going to be a successful picture. And I'm putting every effort forward to make it a reality. And Jun has been instrumental in helping me to, fulfill this mission. I consider it a mission to make this story of Yasuke a worldwide, well-known story.
Japan Journal, the internet's #1 English language weekly online cybercast from Japan.
Hey, Mal.
Japan Journal with Mal Adams.
Yo.
Hey, Mal.
Yes, sir.
Nice show.
Oh, okay. Let me get back on. I was watching something else here. Let me see. Thank you. I will stop sharing now and come back. Okay. Okay. So, thank you. I actually dozed off. I watched that. That was 100.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good morning, man. We've been watching you sleep for like 30 minutes.
Thank you. Could you hear anything other than that?
No, man. I tried to call you, but you wouldn't wake up. But I was hoping that finally, when it was over, you would wake up. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad. Was I drooling from this side of the
No, you didn't drool, so you're safe. Yeah.
All right, let's proceed, and then we'll take a short break. Any questions or comments? Kim, awesome. Awesome.
I feel ashamed that I had so much screen time, but I'm happy to be part of this wonderful effort, and certainly Japan was a very, very important place in my life. So with the wonderful people.
Right. No, you used your screen time well, my friend. Just amazing stuff. I mean, and we've got more to come. So unless someone wants to take a toilet break or something, let's move on. Any other questions or comments at this time? How about Kim, Mike? Anything to remark about?
Yeah.
How was the audio? How was the sound? It's difficult because I couldn't see anything other than the screen. So, is that noise been going on like that?
Yeah, we have one issue with the speaker over here. So we're listening through the small laptop speaker right now.
Any other issues, or shall we proceed?
No, we just, I was explaining that was the rough cut, that you're going to still edit it down because it was a little long.
Oh, yeah.
So that was the only issue.
Yeah, please understand. Yeah, there were a lot of things. It's hard to make a one-shot flat picture look interesting, so I digitally zoomed. Every time you saw me zoom in, that was programmed, and it had to be timed with the comment and the reaction. So that takes a long time, but we'll get it done. And I'm not sure if we're going to have time for Zandre's piece today, but he was not, as those of you who participating know, he did not appear, and it's a shame, but I'm going to seek to re-record his piece so that we can see his face as he tells his amazing story. All right, I will now go back to sharing my screen again and get the next piece, and that will be the June will introduce. Oh no, we'll go to Michael. Michael, it's a little shorter. Mike was a one-take Jake. I mean, he hit it from beginning to end and goes like this. And then we'll take a break after Mike's piece before we go on to Toyama-san. Dozo.
Yeah. So, I was born in Orange, New Jersey, and New Jersey, in the areas where we grew up, there was an Italian community, and the black community kind of mingled back and forth. And it wasn't an easy life. My father was in and out of jail. My mom was a school teacher, so she was always my inspiration to do well. And I was kind of a straight kind of kid, So we grew up in Jersey. We moved from Orange to East Orange, and I had two older brothers, and they all had they had drug issues. And my older brother actually passed away from an overdose of some heroin or something. And I just realized that, man, I got to get out of here, or this is not the place that I really want to try to achieve anything, because this was hard. It was hard to do. So I enlisted in the Coast Guard in my junior year of high school before I graduated. So I actually enlisted in the Coast Guard in 1973. And right after I graduated, and so at the time, in my high school years, I was actually working at a laboratory, a biochemical nutrition laboratory, Hoffman LaRoche in Nutley, New Jersey. So I worked there for a couple of years, being placed by my school there, because I went to an intermediate school before high school that allowed me to have enough credits and know enough in my subjects to graduate a little early. So I didn't have to stay for my last year of high school, but I had to stay for physical education, because that was the only thing that I had to still do. So I did stay there, but I moved from finished high school. I went to the Coast Guard. I went to boot camp in Cape May. I wanted to be a laboratory technician like I was doing before I joined the Coast Guard, but that school was not available, so they sent me to an icebreaker, the Burton Island, and I went to the South Pole, Antarctica, for a year. So, you know, we sailed from Los Angeles, we sailed to Papeete, Tahiti, we sailed to New Zealand, and then from New Zealand, we went to Antarctica. We stayed in Antarctica for like 10 months, right? Came back from Antarctica, and then I decided that, no, I'm not gonna do this again. I was not gonna go on another cruise with like that again. So I'll take any school available that will get me off this icebreaker. And that was radio school. So I went to Petaluma, California for radio school, graduated from that, and then they sent me to Kamasea, Japan, to be a radio man in the radio receiving facility. And I won't talk much about that. That was one of those top secret situations, right? And I did that, and while I was there, I was like there was a few brothers there, and they were all going to Tokyo every night, man. They were partying. They grabbed me the first night. We went to Tokyo, and we all had girls, man, and we was having a great time, and they were really partying. But they had rooms on base, but the Coast Guard doesn't have a base, so we had to stay with the Navy. So after a certain time, we got apartments or houses off base. So I eventually got my house off base. And while I was in my house off base, I met my wife, who is my wife now, because I've been with her since forever. And I also found a dojo that was outside the gate. And I didn't speak any Japanese, and they couldn't speak any English. But I managed to go to that dojo, and they let me in. And I practiced with them until I got my yellow belt going on green. And it was a great experience. I mean, I still, to this day, I'm not sure. I guess it was Shotokan. I'm pretty sure maybe it was Shotokan. And so from there, I spent a lot of years in Japan, man. I went back and forth. I went back home for a little while, realized I wanted to come back to Japan. So I came back to Japan, married my wife, and that's why I was here,
Okay, great, fantastic. Now, skipped over a couple of things, but yeah, right. You're laughing. Tell me, just touch base on your first impression of Kim Bass when you met him, and then talk about your relationship with Jun Takashi, who's waiting to hear from him. He seems that Jun-san, you have a relationship with both of these black men, and I want you, Mike, to introduce that part of it. Before I go into your profession now, your business, touch on your business now, and then make that connection to June with Kim, please.
Yeah, so I met Kim at that audition, like Kim said, and when I first met him, I think he was like the first brother I ever saw that spoke Japanese like that. I mean, I thought he was like just totally fluent. And I guess later I realized that, okay, he was what do you call that? A flight attendant. So, you have to speak a lot of languages, I guess, for flight attendants. You get lots of different customers. So, but Kim was just so able to speak Japanese, and he was just he just seemed so personable. And I was impressed, and like he said, when we did the audition, at the end of the audition, I was thinking, why am I even here? Because we definitely know he's going to get the part, so I'm feeling like I can go home now, right? But we stayed to the end, and I talked to Kim, and then we got along really well. I think I invited him to I think I was having a tournament like really soon after that. And so I invited him to the tournament, and that was the first tournament that I won the All Japan and middleweight contact championship. And I was really happy to be able to do that, and especially with my friend in the audience there, right? So after that, he came down and we talked, and we got a little tighter, and and the whole time I already knew June. I was with Track One because June was known as Mr. NHK, so I did lots of NHK stuff with June, and then the great thing about June was you didn't always have to go to an audition. Sometimes June could just put you in a spot, and they would just take you because June says, yeah, use him. And so I love that because I hate auditions, Yeah, so June used to get me, he used to just bypass a lot of good auditions. I just bypassed because June had that kind of clout in the industry, right? So I always respected like Track One, man. A lot of people wanted to be in Track One, And it wasn't easy. You had to know somebody kind of to get into track one, because June did everything. You know what I mean? So if you didn't know somebody, it was hard to get into track one. And a lot of people were envious of us that had that connection, you know? So it was a beautiful experience. And I really appreciate everything that June has done for me back then, because that led to a lot of different things, you know, just being on the programs. I've done a lot of stuff, man, with NHK, and I've done stuff with, you know, plays. I mean, actual plays, you know what I mean? Plays at the—
Tell them about Benny-san Theater.
Yeah, we did the Benny, at the Benny-san pit.
Deep River guy was the first candidate. He was going to get the part, but you showed up just to be one of the auditionees, and you got the part.
Yeah, okay. Hey, June, Mal said, hold on, he's going to ask you about that. Yeah, wait a second. He's going to ask you about that. Yeah, because that was the—
Michael, one more thing, just in a nutshell, Michael, because I'm going to go to June next.
Yeah.
And I want him to talk about you and him and what he saw in both of you as actors and media people. So, but Michael, one brief summarization about your current enterprise and how that evolved as being you cornered the market on the exotic animals, so to speak. Talk to us about that, how that evolved. And please include the fact, a little bit about your family life, your two children, your two beautiful children, your lovely wife. I've only known you to be married once. I can't say that for myself, but your family life and the fact that you're a practicing Buddhist, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Sokagaka. So talk about your spirituality and how that has affected and supported your life in Japan that made you create this family business, a very unusual business of providing exotic animals to your Japanese cousins.
Okay, well, here's a gecko right here. This is a leopard gecko right here, and I breed leopard geckos. I've been breeding leopard geckos for several years. I originally started my exotic animal business when I had some reptiles that I like to keep, but Japan didn't have the supplies that we needed to keep them healthy. And so I used to always bring in my own supplies from America. And then eventually I used to get live animals from a different shop. But eventually the owner of the shop, I used to show him the things that I was bringing in from America, and he thought that they were great. And he asked me, could I bring in some stuff for his shop? So I started bringing in things for his shop. And then it got to the point where I needed, the volume was just too much. So I had to make a contract with an American company called ZooMed. And so I made a contract with ZooMed, and then I represented them in Japan for a while. I brought in lots of reptile goods and things like that. And it just kind of, progressed from reptiles to mammals. And now that's why now I'm bringing in ferrets. So I represent Marshall ferrets in America, and I'm the representative for them here. And we bring in around 200 to maybe 400 ferrets a month, man. And we've been doing that for over 20, almost nearly 30 years now. So it's a regular thing. I supply shops.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't sell directly to the public. I actually sell to pet shops and other distributors. So it's pretty good. My son and my daughter, my son Ryan, and my wife and my daughter Tiffany, and my wife's sister and her husband, we all work with Business Ventures Japan, which is my company. And I'm very happy to be able to give them all, good salaries. And business is really good for us right now. So we feel blessed. We really feel blessed.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Michael. And we're going to go right to June-san right now. And let him introduce Toyama-san. June, clip number 1. Here we go. It's short, and he will introduce Mr. Toyama. Dozo.
Okay, would you please introduce Toyama-san, and then he can introduce his wife, because he's your guest. So we'd like you to introduce Toyama-san to the audience.
Okay. He and I went to same Waseda University. I'm a bit older than him. But anyway, he's a good friend of my good friend. He's my screenwriter friend who I suggested to Kim Bass. Remember Toyama-san, not Toyama-san, Takeyama-san, who helped Last Samurai movie in
Right.
script.
I understand that.
Takeyama used to be Toyama-san's manager, and that's how he knew him. Now, Takeyama is now a big screenwriter, and I met him after that, after he became famous. But he said, if you are going to do Black History Month, you should include him. So I talked to him, and we had lunch together, and he agreed to do it. That's why he's here. He and his wife. I went to his concert. She plays piano and banjo, and Takeyama-san sings trumpets, and he is a big producer there.
Is Mr. Takeyama-san? Yoshio. Nice to meet you, sir. Nice to meet you. Okay. We're going to move right along here because coming up next, we will hear from the man who talks like Louis Armstrong when he's happy. Let me share that screen with you and get right into Mr. Yoshi-san no clip number 1 wa kore desu ne. Love, it's titled His Love for Louis Armstrong. Dozo.
Thank you very much for introducing us, Jun-san. This is my wife, Keiko Toyama, and she plays piano and banjo, and I play trumpet and Satchmo. Oh yes.
Nice.
I fell in love with Louis Armstrong music when I was in high school, because around that time there was a lot of movies, big hit movies like Glenn Miller Story and Five Pennies by Danny Kaye and Louis Armstrong. And there was a CBS documentary called Satchmo the Great. That's the documentary of our 1954, 55, 56 world tour of Louis Armstrong All-Stars, New Orleans style 6-piece band going around the world, Europe, and they went back to Ghana just before they went independent, and played there, believing that their ancestors came from there. And it's a great movie. At the end, Louis plays with the New York Philharmonic, conducted by Leonard Bernstein. It's a great movie. And all these movies was a big hit in Japan. And I fell in love with that. And I started studying about how the jazz history was, and I just back in those days, Japan, we had very limited news about United States. Very few people went to the United States. Only about 200,000 a year or so, and I wanted to see and live in New Orleans. And I met my wife, Keiko. She was in the same club in Waseda University called New Orleans Jazz Club. Here she is.
Yes.
Wow.
I met him there. And I was influenced by Yoshio, my husband. So I'm here now with him.
When Louis Armstrong came to Japan in 1963 and 64, I followed him around.
She was with me, and I think it was 64. I went into his break room. I knocked on the door, and I heard a, you know, and I opened the door, and there he was, and I said hello, and he said, and I found his trumpet lying on the table was open, you know, so I picked it up, and he was smiling. So I said, maybe it means I can play. So I blew his trumpet, and well, he took it away, you know, but let me play about 1 minute. He's saying, but that made me, burned me, you know, and that was the start. And I went after graduating university, I went into an insurance company, but I couldn't give up the dream to see the birthplace of jazz and Louis Armstrong.
Awesome, very good. Here's part 2 of that. I'll quickly go to that segment. Just a moment, please. Clip number 2 from Yoshio. Clip number 2. Dozo.
So we got married, and we took an immigrant boat to Brazil called the Brazil Maru, and left Yokohama, Yamashita. Who? Brazil Maru. Brazil Maru. Yes.
It's my boat.
Your boat?
Yeah.
You came on the boat? Oh.
My name is Maru.
Maru.
Oh, Maru boat. Yeah, Maru.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it took us about 2 weeks, a little more than 2 weeks to get to the LA, Los Angeles, Long Beach, and then we went to New Orleans and lived there for 5 years.
Wow.
Well, actually, I lived there a year and a half and came back for 1 year and went there for 3 years again. And when I came back in 1970, Takeyama-san, we formed a band, and he was a bass player and manager. Yes, that's how I. He was your agent. Yes.
Great. I have a question, Toyama-san. If you come ask you a question,
So everyone's hoping that we get to hear him play something.
do you have your horn with you now? And can you play just one phrase or two of "Wonderful World"?
Wonderful.
Okay. I got. I'll bring it out here. Could you hold on? Could you ask her something?
While you get the phone, let me talk to your wife, please.
Yes, my English is very bad, so sorry.
大丈夫。私の日本語はなかなか上手にならないから大丈夫。
大丈夫。
Okay. So you played the piano, is that right?
Yes, yes.
And who are your favorite black jazz pianists?
My favorite?
Yeah, your favorite black jazz piano player.
Please name 3 or 4 of them.
Many, but my favorite are Hind. Our Hind.
Right, Earl Hines.
Our kind.
Earl
You
Hines.
understand?
Yeah.
Our Hind.
Yes, I understand.
Father Hines.
Yes, Earl Hines.
And
Yes.
that Louis Armstrong All-Star pianist Billy Kyle.
Billy Kyle.
Okay.
Billy Kyle.
Okay.
And many.
Yes,
Just-
okay. Very good. So, let me ask you, I'm an amateur pianist. I'm studying.
Oh, you play piano?
Skoshi, just a little.
Oh,
It's my
good.
hobby. But I want to ask you after this program.
Yes?
Please teach me. Teach me, onegaishimasu. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, let me ask you about, do you play the blues?
Do I play what?
The blues. The blues.
The blues. Blues.
Blues. Oh, yes, yes, of course.
Of course, I love that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, she plays the blues.
What you know?
Yes, of course. Tell me your favorite blues songs. 2 or 3
Because
favorite blues songs, please.
I learned piano, jazz piano in New Orleans. I just listened to many players piano, and yes, that's my piano teachers in New Orleans.
Oh, wow, that's terrific.
I see. That's great. So Toyama-san, if you're ready,
Yes.
please play
Yes.
whatever you like, just a little bit.
Okay.
Dozo.
バンド持ってくればよかっ
No,
そうだね。
Dozo.
Yeah, you can get your banjo. I'm playing by myself first, then she'll get her banjo too.
Okay, please. Make it funky now.
West End Blues.
Toyama-san, can you play again and then put the bell of the trumpet to your left?
Your left, okay.
No, you sit there. You no.
Thank you.
Yeah. There. So yeah.
Oh, sorry, I have it one more time. Oh. Here she comes.
We need Keiko-san to come in behind you.
Yeah.
I see the blue for me and you, and I think to myself, oh, what a wonderful world. Oh, yes, I see skies of blue, and those clouds are bright, the bright misty day. And if I say goodnight, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Everybody. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-Z. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice.
There you go. That was fantastic.
Wow. Very good. Very good. Nice. Oh, man. We must go on tour in Japan together. I will be your Shikai MC. The Japan version of Louis Armstrong. Wonderful. let's continue. We've got one more segment here, and then we'll take some a little bit of Q&A. Let's go back to Yoshi-san, clip number 3. Clip number 1. Yoshi-san, dozo. Hi.
Could you tell us about how you donated musical instruments to young people in New Orleans?
Thank you.
We lived in New Orleans. We lived in New Orleans, the birthplace of jazz and Louis Armstrong, for 5 years, and we learned so much, and everybody was so kind. We were just living among the Louis Armstrong's neighbors, you know. And back then, in 1960s, it was right after the civil rights movement was a success, and everybody was all the old timers, 70, 80, 90 years old. They were playing like, you know, the joy was coming out of their horn, and it was a nice time. But 10, 20 years after that, the States got to be a dangerous place with a lot of drugs, a lot of shootings in school and all the places. And it was sad for us. And I wanted to do something because the jazz was such a great thing the United States and the Black people gave to the world. It changed the whole world after the Spanish flu and World War I. And Japan was greatly saved with American jazz after the World War II. And I thought we should say thank you, and I should say thank you to States and New Orleans and Louis Armstrong. And I remembered Louis shot his gun when he was 11 and went into a boys' home that it's called Colored Waif's Home in New Orleans, and he stayed there for about 2 years, and that's where he got the horn. He met horn, and he led his great life. So I want a lot of our young kids in New Orleans who live every day surrounded by drugs and guns and crimes. I wanted them to remember. So we started sending instruments in 1994 with our foundation. It's not a foundation, it's just a fan club of Louis Armstrong. But we call it Wonderful World.
Are we still recording?
Yes.
I lost.
So
I lost his audio. I'm sorry.
Okay. So we called it Wonderful World Jazz Foundation, and we had a hard time sending instruments, you know. But
I can't hear.
We were lucky that we got help from Nippon Express. They sent instruments free of charge for almost 15, 20 years. And we managed to send 850 musical instruments to the kids of New Orleans. And two occasions I was very glad that when we were in Preservation Hall in New Orleans, I met a young musician.
I can't. I lost the audio on the program.
Oh, is that right?
Michael, you're getting it, right? I see the record button.
Yeah, I'm trying to turn my mic back on.
Okay, thank you.
It looks
Can
like
I keep going?
It's been recording, Mal.
Because I want to get to June next.
Okay. So I have to see the.
Your mic is muted, or
no? I put the earphone in because I was getting the interference.
I don't hear Toyama.
Toyama hit the button because his mic is
usually when we do something else, it changes everything. So
right. Toyama-san's mic is off. I think he cut it off on his
Yeah,
end.
it's got a real. You get the little red mark.
How I started?
Describe.
Yeah, how you started track one.
Okay.
First of all, give me Chico
In order
Shokai.
to talk
Where are
about
you
it,
from in
I have to
Japan?
go back when I was.
Yeah, okay, June. So first, for June, before you start, introduce yourself and explain where you came from. Some people think
I
that you
talk about my high school experience that leads me to track one, because I have to talk about it.
Tokyo and Los Angeles.
When I was 17, I
you can hear now,
joined.
Mal, right?
No. June, you have to lean back, June. Don't get close to the camera.
Repeat what I said so it gets recorded.
Okay.
I'll work around it.
Yeah, that's good. Stay there.
Okay, yeah. Now that's will be cut out eventually. Let's go to June segment number 2, please. And here we go, right there. Dozo June song.
And I went there to join this American, and it's a group of American, British, French, Dutch. It's all this allied forces group, and I joined.
Sorry, Mike, is he answering the question now?
Expose myself to living.
I can't hear anything, so please, when after you cut him off, tell him Mal's got another question, but just summarize. Where's he from?
Movie company, and went to America and came back. All this time I was a member of TIP, Tokyo International Players. And I talked to the person, he was a diplomat doing track one function for the theater group. And he said, I've been doing this for free of charge as part of embassy's good friendship with Japan society, but you should be doing this because you are in the theater, movie, and all that connection, and you know which is good script, which is bad script. Don't cast us in a bad story. So I took over, and that's how track one started. And my then wife was a vice president of Tokyo International Players, and all my shareholders were former president of the this player group, Tokyo International Players. So I had lots of people to work for me. So that was my track one experience, and I did foreign film, domestic film, NHK, stage, Imperial Theater, Takarazuka Theater. Well, I was about
Takarazuka. Yeah, they're beautiful.
Yeah,
Mike, did you explain about his background in Japan, where he's from?
Yeah, June. So you explained that you came from. You were born. Where were you born?
I was born in Osaka, and my parents, my grandparents started business in Manchuria. So I was taken to Manchuria and came back, and we came back to Tokyo, and I got into kindergarten there. This bully kid's name was Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, not Abraham, just Lincoln. He was a bully kid. So that's my first American name I learned. And then I came to school. I went to grade school. I changed grade school 6 times in 6 years. Can you imagine? Because my father was working for Petro Company, which is in those days he was part of the Japan Army. Army used lots of petrol for tanks and planes and ships. So he had to go. He was an accountant. So he had to go to Shimizu in Shizuoka Prefecture, or Wakayama, or Chiba. Goes around, and after the end of the war, he was called back to the headquarters, which was in Tokyo. So I came to Tokyo. My high school from Shizuoka High School to Ueno High School. And then I get to join this Tokyo International Players. And I studied, I went to Waseda to study
Okay,
theater.
June, Mal has a question.
Hmm?
Go ahead, Mal.
I don't know if you can hear me, but please explain that in Japan, for foreigners, communication, successful communication is very key. All of us who have succeeded here is because of our ability. Kim Bass, Nihongo, and yourself, and me also. But also, on the reverse tip, how did he acquire his English proficiency, and how did that? How important was that in him dealing with foreign talent in Japan?
So Mal says that, you know, communication is a very big part about how we all succeeded here in Japan. You know, I try to speak Japanese. Kim speaks good Japanese. Mal is learning Japanese, and he wanted to know how you learned, how your English became so good. And do you think because you spoke really good English, that's what helped you succeed with track one in the foreign actors, dealing with foreign actors?
I got engrossed there. I think the answer is coming up on his next segment. Just a moment, please. We'll go right to it. June's on clip number 3, no doubt. Hi, Dozo. Just about to go to say, Dozo.
When I was maybe 4 or 5, my mother gave me ABC cookies. And my mother taught me, if you put C-A-T, that's neko, that's cat. And D-O-G is dog, inu. And I said, I want more cookies. And she said, C-H-O, chocolate, pineapple, longer ones. So I discovered the strange letters, more cookies. In English, I didn't know it was English. It's a games. So I love that game. More cookies.
ABC cookies, right? Yeah, already been chewed. Yeah, okay.
The next thing that came was when I was in middle school.
Hey June, so you know. Hey June, in America, sometimes when you say ABC cookies, right, that we get some impression like it means, we used to say that means A, already, B, been, C, chewed. So already been chewed. ABC cookies. But that's a great story, and that's a good incentive for any child to learn. If you get the right spelling, you get to eat the word. So that's great, but we should use that. Jim, you can use that, man.
Exactly. When I was in middle school, in my puberty.
June, lean back. June, lean back away from the camera. Too close to the camera.
GHQ, MacArthur, sent Bible class teachers to all public schools. And she told us, if you have any problem, talk to Jesus. He'll give you answer. All these sex problems, I couldn't talk to my parents. So I talked to Jesus.
Wow. Oh. And he told you, go ahead and get it down.
And that's how I got into the communication. I needed English to communicate Jesus, because this lady teacher, Bible class teacher from Indiana someplace, she could only speak English. So I was talking to, instead of Jewish, I was talking to Jesus in English.
Oh, okay.
That's the way
I think Jesus,
I got into English.
Yeah, I think Jesus speaks many languages.
When I was in high school, I used to go to Chapel Center, which is American GHQ church. And my teacher was guy from Texas, and he said, atomic bomb was will of God. I said, no, 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 it's Harry Truman. And he said, no, oh, he spoke through Harry Truman. I said, no, 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 I don't believe it. So we separated. I went to communism, and I studied communism, and I got accepted with Waseda. Waseda Student Union is very, very leftist, communist. Yankee Go Home was my favorite game to play. And then I realized these guys, the student who plays communist game is just because they want to have good time. They drink and chase girls and talk communism. So I went more theater. I'm interested in theater, not in communism. So I switched my line. And then one day, this gaijin came to our studio, Tokyo studio, where I worked, and he was the guy who produced Out of Tiger's Mouth with a language teacher, future language teacher to Ikebukuro Sunshine School. His name was Tim. Tim was a good guy, and he taught me, he said, if you want to study film, come to America, go to UCLA. That's why I went. I thought about that, but going to a country which 360 yen to $1, that's too much money.
Yeah.
Then I found out that the scholarship, and I applied, and only because I wanted to go to America, I applied and I got it. That was the Fulbright scholarship. And now I went to America. And before that, I joined Tokyo International Players to further my English communication skill.
Yeah, we thought you were born in America.
Yeah, and that's right.
Yeah. Okay, June, we're gonna edit. We're gonna make an edit point right here.
Now, I want to transition, if I may.
Mhm.
Kim, are you still listening? Kim, do we stop it?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, great.
And I am interested in black music, and I produced a musical film in Daiei, and I used I forgot the name of the pianist. The pianist was the leader of this black jazz band. Mr. Toyama said, you knew the bass player, Thad Jones. Remember?
Thad
You
Jones.
told me you knew him.
Yes.
Thad
Jones.
Thad Jones. Thad
Yeah,
Jones.
that's trumpet player.
Yeah.
じゃあ皆さん、大きな拍手 for Jun-san, please. Thank you very much. That was amazing. So please, everyone, if you don't get feedback, open your mics and let's have a brief chat. If we can control the howling. I just want to make some comments about Jun's very historical report. Here are my takeaways from his comments, and I apologize for the blurbs and the mishaps. That will all be cleaned up, and some of this stuff will be re-recorded. But first of all, Yoshi-san and Mrs. Toyama, thank you very much. That was incredible, awesome. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. Mic 開けてください。一言お願いします。
ありがとうございました。I didn't know I played that. I made the movie video stop.
No, you didn't. But you know what I was impressed by most is your opening was not that the beginning of West End Blues.
そうですね。
Wow, that is incredible. That's not easy to play. Congratulations, Subarashi. Jun-san, where are you?
Yeah.
June, let me talk to you. I can't see your face, but I have 5 things I'd like to comment on about your presentation. I did not.
Thank you very much for doing this.
No. Thank you, by the way. But I learned a lot from your brief comments there. I knew you were old, but I did not know you knew Abraham Lincoln. Nor I knew you were Ernesto, but I did not know you knew Harry Truman. And I knew you were a very shojiki ninge, but you have a special relationship with God and Jesus. Subarashi. So June, at this point, please give us give us one comment about your motivation, your contribution to this happening. Because of you, we are all gathered here to commemorate Black history in Japan. I have been inspired, and so I'm volunteering to produce this part of it, but it comes on the heels of Kim's mission. So, about this gathering and this particular event.
I think we should do this after Kim's movie is made.
No, we're going to make Kim's movie. That's a given. But just a minute about Yasuke and and this particular event, this gathering.
He's British. Yeah, British.
Oh, yes.
When he's here, we should invite him.
Okay.
Again.
Yeah, you want him to play the part?
Yeah.
Is he planning to come?
Whenever we start shooting.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Okay. That would be great.
It's me. 主役のね、でっかい黒人が来た時にもう一回これやればね。
That would be great.
台本読んでやりたいって言ってる。
I would like to. I'd like to hear just one comment from Takeyama-san.
で、値切ったのね。そしたら
Takeyama-san、一言お願いします。はじめまして、どうぞよろしく。One comment, please. どうぞ。
竹山です。どうもはじめまして。
はい、よろしくどうぞ。
今日は皆さんの集まりに呼んでいただいて大変嬉しいです。Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. はい、拍手お願いします。
キムさんと一度ちゃんと会いたいなと思ってます。もし東京に来ましたらご飯食べましょう、キムさん。ね、安家についていろいろ僕の考えもありますので、何か役に立つことがあれば言っていただければ協力します。日米のフレンドシップを高めましょう。
そうですね。
Thank you.
よろしく。
どうもありがとうございます。
じゃあ、小渕さんお願いします。一言お願いします。小渕さん and your friend next to you どうぞ。
はい。はい、小渕です。キムさん起きてますか？
来てますよ。
アメリカも
ごめんなさい。
コロナで、大変ですけど、ワクチンがアメリカはたくさんあるそうなので、早くワクチンをみんなで食べて、元気になって、経済も回復して、早く映画をやりましょう。
そうですね。
はい。はい、待ってます。
Okay. And how about your friend there next to you? 隣の人どうぞ一言お願いします。
はい、どうぞ。
はい。
Hi, nice to meet you. It's my, I don't know how to, so I'll be joining the team, and I know Takahashi-san through my cousin, and so nice to meet you.
もう一回自己紹介してください。Your name and what do you do, sir?
Okay, my name is Gakuto, and I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I was for 5 years, and I just came back last summer.
Okay, great. And my friend Gary Perlman, who I
Hey.
met through Kim, and we all know each other because of Kim. Everybody here. Shitokoto onegaishimasu. I understand you played a crucial role in the translation of his screenplay. Good job. Dozo. Job.
Translation of what? Excuse me?
The screenplay.
Screenplay, yes, I did.
Yeah.
I helped.
Okay. One comment or two about your relationship with Kim-san and the rest of us through Kim. Dozo.
I didn't know I was going to be part of this. I met Kim the first day I arrived in Japan, actually.
Wow.
We were at a Sunshine Language School. So I was very happy. It wasn't so happy, but it was fun. And we became my very first day. So I can tell you, it was September 4th, 1980.
Wow.
That's when we met.
Wow.
And he left me behind. He dumped me after 5 years and went to Hollywood. But I was waiting before here, waiting for him to come back. I've been convinced he's going to come back at some point. And this is what it took. Yasuke. See, if I wait long enough, good things will happen.
You just answered my follow-up question. How come you're not famous?
Yeah. I'm as famous as I need to be. I'm very happy. I'm pulling the curtains. So I'm happy.
Self-muted. じゃあ皆さんよろしく。僕もちょっと自己紹介しますから。I have been in Japan. I first came to Japan in 1976. I was a CBS news reporter from Hollywood, where I spent several years. And Kim did the opposite. Kim went from Tokyo to Hollywood. I came from Hollywood to Tokyo. And I worked in Akasaka at the TBS building on the 7th floor there. And on the 7th floor of the TBS building was the Japan office of CBS. And so because of the proximity, I was able to do the Taju Hoso for the TBS evening news on the multi-channel. You could hear my voice doing the Nama Hoso in English of the Japanese evening news. That was my first real start as eventually operating my own business in Japan. I was recruited by CNN to help launch the first overseas bureau of the newly founded CNN, which is the cable news network, and Mr. Ted Turner changed the game for broadcast news by launching the first 24-hour news. So as a result of that, he hired me to create a weekly 30-minute broadcast called This Week in Japan, which I did for almost 5 years, 4 years and some months, where I would report on all things related to Japan, Japanese culture, Japanese festivals, Japanese religion, and of course the main news at that time was economic news because we were in the bubble economy of Japan, and Japan was being bashed by American car manufacturers because of the prominence of Toyota Jidosha and other Japanese cars that were very efficient and low cost. So I covered a lot of economic news, but 30 minutes a week, that's over 1,000 individual segments per year that I had to write and record and shuzai and heishu surukara. So I really had a great professional learning experience here in Japan. Kagoshima kara Sapporo, maishu shuzai ikimashita kara. So as a result of that, I gained a certain amount of access to all levels of Japan, from the man on the street to the tops of government, Shugin and Nakasori Soridaijin to Nakayoshi Narimashita kara. 何回もあれ彼の別荘なんだっけ誰かどこだっけじゃなくて金持ちの場所中野軽井沢 I went to Karuizawa 2 times to visit him, and then I was probably the only American foreign correspondent to ride the equivalent of Japan Air Force One to America, Washington, D.C., covering him making an English speech to the United States public in English. Genko yonda kara, but Hatsun daijoubu datta, daiseko datta yo. And so I became acquainted with Nakasone Soridaijin. And of course, Abe no Otosan, Abe Shintaro, I was a regular on my show, Gaimu Daijin, and also many other people in Japanese political life. And so, of course, June is my Dai Senpai at the Gaiko Kisha Club, Foreign Correspondents Club. I was the only African-American news correspondent at that club for many years. That's a little bit of a black history in Japan. And because of CNN, we were the most prominent, the most powerful broadcasting entity on the planet. So I had chikaramochi in getting access to Japanese government people. They could not refuse my microphone. So, 一人の可愛く悲しいことは、渡辺道夫の政治家は悪口した黒人の話、差別のことを言いましたから、I forget the Japanese slang in referring to how black people do not pay their bills and how they are not welcome in the white neighborhoods. So he was poisoned by white racism, and he used that thinking he was only addressing his own constituency. But because of my microphone and the microphone of other foreign correspondents, it became a global news. And I made a comment criticizing him, and a week later he went to the hospital and passed away. I was accused by my colleagues of having had a hand in that. But so there have been many experiences that I have acquired in Japan from my coverage of this nation. And I decided, as I stated in my opening comments, that my African ancestors came to America on a boat by force. I flew a 747 to Japan by choice. Kim-san wants to come back in. He went to the washroom. So I'm giving you a little background of my history in Japan, which has been a glorious one. So I'm all about, as a broadcaster, a veteran broadcaster. I retired from my professional work as a broadcaster at the age of 34. I lived in a very beautiful community of Daien Chofu, very near my friend Michael Coleman, who's in Shizuoka. So Daien Chofu kara Kakegawa 直接来ましたから。But I made many wonderful relationships.
I can only imagine.
I made many wonderful relationships because of my access in the news. And so, mo ohaka, mo eranda, I decided my grave. I will pass away in Japan. I've raised 4 beautiful children here. And my oldest child's name is Sakura-chan Chojo, because of my love for the cherry blossoms. So Japan is my life. I've been here living longer than I ever lived in the United States. But like Kim Bass's history, family history, my grandfather was the first African-American attorney to plead a case before the Southern Carolina Supreme Court and ultimately the U.S. Supreme Court at the turn of the century in 1908 for defending a man who literally shot the sheriff. That's kind of a co-opting situation. That's a part of the history. But I grew up in a law office, in a ghetto law office, and that was my love for law and justice and fairness. And so I'm all about that mission. And through Kim's comments, which support that kind of thing in his assessment of the mission and the purpose of Mr. Yasuke, it's about human justice and determining self-determination. So, minasan, go kyoryuku arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you very much for my participation here. Let's continue this. And Jun-san, I appreciate you, my friend. Mata nanka yarimashou. And I'm sorry for falling asleep during Kim's presentation, but I've heard it 350 times since it's been recorded. I know it back and forth. So
yeah, I think we have about 10 minutes to clear out of this room.
You got it. Take it back, Michael Dozo. Minasan, hakushu onegaishimasu for all the participants here. And I would love to be there with you to drink, but I have protocols that I must adhere to. So instead of social distancing, I will have one coronavirus, not coronavirus, coronavirus いっぱい飲みますから。In Kakegawa, 洋風居酒屋やってますから、田舎の店。Maru's Bar. I've been running for 20 years, and I have a media 制作事務所. So this is my profession. I run Adams International Academy, which is an English school for elementary to seniors. We are teaching. So, 引退してますけど、忙しい。貧乏暇なしです。富山さん、また会いましょうよ。生放送やりましょう。じゃあ、どうぞ、ジュンさん、最後のコメント、どうぞ。
最後のコメント。
最後のコメント、皆さんありがとうございます。一番、Kim, let's do, if big studio doesn't work, let's go to not Lionsgate, but Netflix or Amazon.
Yeah, Netflix. I got to hook up in Netflix Japan. 紹介しますよ。
All right.
よろしく。
Yeah, we will make this soon. 絶対ありますから、皆さんよろしくお願い申し上げます。
はい。キムさん、よろしく頑張ってくださいよ。
はい、頑張ります。
All right.
Take care, everyone.
じゃあ、これでお開きにしますよ。どうぞ。エンジョイしてください。私は3日前から寝てないから失礼しました。I'm going to get some badly needed sleep. Thank you, Michael, for sending the pictures of me sleeping. ずるかったよ。
Yeah, I tried to wake you up 3 times.
無理。I didn't realize I was being watched. Thank you very much. じゃあどうぞ皆さん。
どうも。お疲れ様でした。
お疲れ様です。
お疲れ様です。
Kim.
時間が許せば下で飯食って7時半までに思ったら。
これ高橋さんの情報。
じゃあマイクどうぞ。I'll call you later, Mike.
Okay, I'll call you later tonight.
Gary, you can talk now.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you. You're a swell guy.
I try to read, man.
I hope you make it to Tokyo sometime. Let's go out for a beer.
Yeah, right. Well, you come to Shizuoka. It's better. This is God's country, man.
Are we allowed to go to Shikoku or do we have to quarantine?
Shikoku じゃないよ。
Shizuoka. ごめんなさい.
Yeah.
Shizuoka. I'm going to Shikoku in Golden Week, so I got to fix up. Shizuoka, do we have to quarantine?
No, it's not official, but yeah, they're pretty kibishy. I could not attend because I have a contract with Shizuoka Broadcasting and at the Gakuen there, and they said if I went to Tokyo or Osaka, Nishukan. So
hot zone right now.
Hot zone.
But let's talk, man. Let's talk.
Absolutely.
Somebody give you a side, yo. Come hang out.
Good seeing you.
All right, Mike. Okay. Thanks for your support, Mike Coleman.
Okay, man. Talk to you later.
Talk to you guys later. And この旅行も編集します。どうぞ。オフしてください。どうぞ。僕最後待ってますから。どうぞ。Click that big camera. Yeah. 小渕さんよろしくね。
Hold on, Mal. We're working on this. Let me get this.
Just pull the plug.
Yeah, it's probably the best. I'm just gonna put. Just turn it off. Okay.
Dinky.
So got it.
Okay. Wow, what an event! What was that? They started from 2:45 to 5:15. That's a couple of hours. Good event nonetheless. I had a good time. I'm happy to be able to contribute my skills and support to this mission of Kim Bass and also our own mission here at the Media Arts Lab and Japan Journal, where we will do similar kinds of programming in the weeks and months ahead to share with you the stories in the days of our lives right here as African Americans in the diaspora with particularity to Japan. And we've got tons of authentic and historically pertinent stories to share with you. And it may be a mirror reflection of your own life wherever you may be if you're African American, but man, there's a lot to be learned from the things we have to share here about being black in Japan and doing something good for our grandchildren as we all want to do. So you'll be seeing these segments as they come out in episode forms, starting with Mr. Kim Bass's report. That's about a 40-minute report, so I'll be able to drop that one on you on Japan Journal's YouTube channel, and we'll share it to Facebook, Twitter, and all other social platforms. So, yoroshiku onegaishimasu. In Japan, we say best regards, yoroshiku. Dozo mata aimashou. Until we meet again. This is Mal Adams reporting to you live from beautiful downtown Kakegawa City in the western end of Shizuoka Prefecture in the center of the Japanese archipelago on Japan Journal, the internet's #1 weekly English language online cybercast from Japan, Japan Journal with your host, Brother Mal. Peace.